Let me go ahead and pull the link here so I can make sure that everybody is able to watch.
All right.
All right. Ba da 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 da. Here, I'll post it in the thing so you'll be able to see it in there.
All right. Yeah.
Post it in a couple places. Announcements. All right, and I'll post on the Facebook page just so everybody can see that. So, yeah, let's give it a minute here. Let people get in, get situated. Because I know for a damn fact. Is this the right one? No, that's not the right one. Switch accounts. I know for a fact it's going to take people a minute here.
Do I have to do anything?
No, dude, you're good.
I mean, I probably have to do something.
You think so?
Yeah. I don't think I'm broadcasting.
Hey, make sure go into your party settings, Kyle.
Oh no, we're good. We're good. We're good.
Yeah, make sure that when you
I heard
go.
myself.
Oh, my computer's gonna restart, dude. For fuck's sake, there, mate. Yeah, when you go into your party settings, though. Fuck, why does my shit have to... Kyle, I'm gonna send this to you. Actually,
Send
fuck
what?
it. Never mind, I'll just get on my phone, it's fine. Okay. I can't even see how many people are watching, because my thing is going to restart here. So annoying.
Alright.
Got it. So, da, 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 da. 4 people watching. Okay, so you can probably start then. That's a good amount. So here we go. So this is the podcast for Little Big League for Madden here. Biggest thing with our podcast that we're going to be covering is going to be anything from league-wide rules to just breaking news of any sort. I guess really today what we're going to be covering is we're going to talk playoff recaps as well as season 1 recaps. We're going to talk about the draft class, the draft board itself, and then we're also going to talk about our way too soon predictions for this year, which that should be fun. And when I say we, I am talking about me. Obviously, I'm your commissioner, Tyler, and I have with me today the owner and coach of the Chicago Bears, Kyle. Say what's up, Kyle.
What's up, guys? This should be fun.
There's Kyle. So yeah, and obviously too, we have a Discord laid out. So if you want to go ahead at any point in time during this entire podcast here, we do encourage you ask questions. If you want to make a point of something, if you want to argue with us, that is fine. At the end of our podcast here, we'll leave the lines open so you can go ahead and you can call in. And you could be heard on the podcast. So it's kind of a cool thing that we have going on here. So yeah, we'll kind of get right into it. I guess biggest thing for season 1 that we kind of noticed. I guess, I don't know, Kyle, what was your biggest takeaway from season 1?
Well, in season 1 there's a lot of surprises. I mean, having the Browns go 14-2 is kind of crazy, but along the other lines, it's been football. I mean, crazy stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the Browns being 14-2 is a pretty good story. It was kind of interesting when you actually looked at that division. So you had the Browns at 14-2 and the Steelers at 13-3. So that was a division to me that kind of took me by surprise because it was something where the Browns they had a stranglehold on that at pretty much the entire AFC all year.
Yeah.
And the Steelers, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'll pull it up here, but I'm pretty sure the Steelers lost. Like I don't remember the Steelers starting out good, and I know that Coach Stupsky kind of stumbled a little bit.
Out of the gate, yeah.
Out of the gate, yeah. So it was kind of one of those things where, let's see here, will it show me? Yeah, he lost to the Browns. CPU. That was a CPU at the time, and then he beat the Chiefs CPU, and then he lost to Tampa Bay CPU. So he started out 1-2, which, when that happens, you're kind of like, okay. But then he had a good bounce back win against the Ravens, won by 3, beat the Falcons by 2, and it seemed in week 6 he kind of just started on a roll, and he only ended up losing one more game for the rest of the year. So he kind of pulled it out.
Yeah.
I didn't think that the Steelers were going to do as good as they ended up doing. I know Le'Veon was kind of on and off with injuries. Obviously, Antonio Brown set an NFL record for receptions, and I believe he set the yardage record as well. So he had a damn good year at the end there, and he finished strong, which was pretty sweet.
Sorry.
That's all right.
That's definitely one of those things where you don't want to hit the eject button too soon on the year. I definitely think pulling together like that for the Steelers was really good. But yeah, just that's kind of crazy that division ended up like that. Another division that kind of went crazy was the NFC North. I mean, you had 4 teams vying for a playoff spot in that division.
Yeah.
If you look at Detroit, 12-4, Minnesota 11-5, and then 2 9-7 teams.
Yeah.
It's just a crazy division, the way that worked out like that.
Yeah, and I think too that the NFC North was interesting this year, and obviously you and me are very familiar with the NFC North.
Yeah.
It was just crazy, man. It was like between all of us, we kind of just beat the shit out of each other.
Except for the Bears, who went 0-6 in the division.
That did happen. Which, yeah, and I think, I went 5-1. What did the Vikings go? Let's see here. I know the Vikings he beat me pretty good at the end there. But yeah, it was tough. Did I pass it? I think I passed it. Yeah, he went 3-3. That's surprising. In Green Bay, he went 4-2. So Green Bay was a shocker to me. Green Bay, Henry, he's no longer in the league anymore. He had, he departed from the league just because he was more focused on other things. So he departed, which that's fine. We respect that completely. But he put in a hell of a season. I mean, he really surprised me. And to get a playoff spot, obviously didn't show up too good in the second half of the wild card game, but he put up a fight. Like, he dominated some of these teams. And it was surprising to me because I remember the first game. This was just to give you a little bit of a backstory here. This is the first time that Henry has played, that he played in a Madden league. So he never even played in a Madden league prior to this. And so when I told him when he came in, this is going to be a competitive league. Or I told him casual league and then turned into competitive really fast. And then he kind of just took me by surprise because he just started steamrolling people, and I was like, "Where did this guy come from?" So that was pretty interesting that happened, and he ended up making the playoffs, which that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there was a lot of surprises. Nobody wanted to lose that division. If you ask any one of those coaches, they definitely would have. It was the most talk of the league, I want to say.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, hey, that's all right. I think, too, if you look at any of the other divisions, we'll kind of scroll through here. You have the NFC South. Obviously, the Saints and Buccaneers didn't really put forth a decent effort this year. I was pretty surprised by the Saints with Coach Toppin going 2-14. That kind of caught me off guard. But after watching, some of the games, it was a little bit more obvious as to why.
Trading your star quarterback away for
a different quarterback,
less reputation, it's kind of crazy. I mean, it seemed to work out well for the Vikings in that one, but let's be honest, they got the better quarterback out of the deal. I mean, Kirk Cousins is good, but now he's on his 3rd team in less than 2 years. I think this might actually be his 4th team in less than 2 years. That's got to be crazy just for that player alone.
Yeah.
But especially a lot of offenses, I don't know.
No, I agree there. Yeah, and I think too with the Panthers in that division, normally Coach, and I'm gonna butcher this. I say I don't know if it's Tillotson or Tillotson, but I'm just gonna say
Oh yeah,
Tillotson
yeah,
to keep it easy. Um, Normally, Coach Tillotson will make the playoffs. He's one guy that I've been in leagues with before that he does a really good job. He makes the playoffs. He's a tough opponent to play. Um, but this year, I just don't know what happened. He went 5-11 with the Carolina Panthers team that has a lot of talent. Um, I don't know if it's just getting used to the new way that Madden plays out. I'm not really sure. Um, but also with the Falcons with Mike, that was surprising. 12-4 from the Falcons.
yeah. Well, that's a good team. I mean, you can't really knock the Falcons. That's a very good team in a very good division. Um, and it really does come down to the player, and Mike really isn't that bad of a player. You put a good team in his hands, see what can happen. I mean,
Yeah, and it showed. I mean, he ended up losing to the Lions in the playoffs. Um,
yeah, that
I
must have
think it was
sucked.
like 34-3, so his team didn't show up too great. I mean, it was one of those things where, and I feel like that's just the type of player that he is. I think when it comes to the regular season, I think you're going to see him exceed expectations each year in the regular season. But I think once you hit the playoffs, I don't know if it's just he gets a little bit nervous. I don't know if he psychs himself out a little bit. But I do think that there's something there in the playoffs that he gets an emotion that makes him feel
It,
like he's
hey, it
not
could
going to
just be
succeed. Yeah,
nerves, man. Maybe
yeah,
maybe it's just being nervous. Everyone gets that. I mean, I had that in the first game
yeah,
when I played the Packers. I couldn't call play.
yeah.
I lost a very close game. But moving on, I have a question from Discord.
Yeah, for
The
sure.
Dallas Cowboys want to know why the Dallas Cowboys are so trash.
Yeah, okay, that
In
is fair question.
a really good, well, a really good NFC East. I mean, you had two teams go borderline wild card seed, and then you had another team go 13-3. I mean, that's just a tough division to be in, regardless.
Yeah. No, that division, the Eagles had a lock on that division pretty tight. Chris Tillotson, Tillotson, that is, they're actually brothers. Carolina and the Philly are brothers, so they're
Philly,
related,
yeah.
which is kind of cool that you have that in the league. But I mean, he just had a lock on that division the whole time. I mean, he didn't stop. I mean, I do believe he came in when they were 5-0, so I think he did lose 3 games on the back stretch. But and the one thing too, the Giants actually put up a pretty good fight in that division. Actually, he was going. The coach De Los Santos was going for a wild card spot pretty much right up until the end. I think it came down to the Minnesota-Chicago game. What was that? That was the last week, I believe, correct?
That was
Or
the second to last
second
week
to
of the
last
season.
week, yep. So it came down to that game that kind of kicked him out of that spot. And I know we didn't have a Redskins owner for a super long time, but the Redskins ended up being 8-8 as a CPU team, which was pretty
Yeah.
interesting. But I think to answer Dallas's
To answer
question,
Dallas's question, I really do think it's the fact that Dak Prescott really couldn't get going. I mean,
yeah,
he took 56 sacks on the year.
he did,
He
yeah.
threw for a less than 65 completion percentage,
Mhm.
and he really just didn't get over 3,000 yards.
And I think with the
It,
lack of talent too, that team, and I'll pull it up here on my end so that the viewers can see the Dallas roster here. But the one thing when you really look at the depth chart of Dallas, um, I remember looking at it when I was looking for trades, and I just remember Dak Prescott wasn't too good, and now it's even worse. He downgraded at quarterback, so Dak went to New York. Now he's got Deshaun Kaiser, which I personally think he's
is
going to go
that really
quarterback in the
is
draft.
that
Yeah.
really a downgrade though? I mean, if we really
Uh,
look at what Dak can do
yeah.
overall wise, yeah, but we have to take for account that Dak wasn't completing passes. He wasn't throwing for more than 10 yards on average. He was checking all the wrong boxes, if you will. But then again, Kaiser didn't do that well in New York either.
Yeah. No, Kaiser found the bench pretty fast in New York. Um, but I think he's going to go with a quarterback in his with his first pick in the draft. I'd be shocked if he didn't, to be completely honest. The one thing I was pretty surprised with too, which I need to pull this up here if it'll let me. I won't. I'm gonna go to rosters with Dallas though. He got Golden Tate at the beginning of the year, I think week 1 or 2, um, and I do believe that Golden Tate might have underperformed for him, um, which was kind of surprising because you think that somebody like
That
Dak
was that
feeding him the ball would
big
be.
trade, right? From Detroit and Dallas, where he gave up what was it, Leighton Vander Esch and something else for Golden
Yeah,
Tate.
and Taco Charlton was the other guy in that trade. I guess it wasn't as bad as I initially thought. I mean, he did have 59 receptions, 1,003 yards, which actually matched his previous year, with way less catches. He had 92 the year prior with 1,003, but he had 59 with 1,003 this year. And then he had 7 touchdowns this year. So, I mean, he was their number one, and I believe he was their number one by a mile. I don't recall Sterling Shepard doing a whole lot last year. Actually, I think he only had Sterling Shepard for a brief period of time anyway. But when you kind of go through, I mean, like his receiving core, it's Golden Tate, and then past that, I mean, it's pretty much nothing. So I think giving up the two
Yeah,
defensive players,
that
and
was bad.
his defense played pretty good last year. I do believe they were ranked up at the top, within the top 10 pretty much all year. But his offensive efficiency was just brutal. So that's kind of what killed him.
All right,
Um,
so
yeah, do we have any
the
more Discord?
Atlanta and the Saints are having a little bit of banter going back and forth right now. They're
Yeah.
Atlanta wants to know how easy it would be for them to repeat this year, that, with that 12-4 record to take the South again.
So
And
here's
go ahead.
my point with this. Atlanta is going to have a tough road. And the reason I say that is because Atlanta is going to have to play, obviously, the division, which the Saints got an upgrade at head coach.
Yeah,
So that team got an upgrade with head coach. Buccaneers are still CPU. We know how people can play CPU sometimes. I think the Panthers take a big step up. I think the Panthers are going to be a playoff team this coming year. Which, if that happens, that's going to kind of put a damper on things for Atlanta having to play them twice. But when you look at the Falcons in the NFC East, they do have to play the Eagles this year. And then I do
that
believe
is
they
a
play
tough one.
the Lions, and they're going to have to play the 49ers.
So they're
And
playing that whole NFC West this year.
exactly, because you play the two teams that are in your that finish the same way as you did. Let me
Yeah.
pull up a future schedule here actually, because I should be able to see exactly which AFC division they play.
I want
Um,
to talk a little bit about the Saints, though. I mean,
yeah,
this
go
new
ahead.
guy comes in and he's on a fire sale. You know what I mean? Like, he's
Yeah,
coming in here, he's trading everyone. He went and got the reigning MVP in Mariota. He went and got all these other talents. I mean, he just did not seem happy with this team before he took it over. I just
yeah.
think it's kind of questionable.
No, of course, yeah, and that's something where, I mean, he did get Mariota, which Mariota last year. I mean, theor- I guess not
MVP, you can't
theoretically,
really
but
say much more.
yeah, I mean, he's the MVP quarterback. It was really him and Patty Mahomes the whole entire way through the AFC last year. And, I want to, when we talk about the playoffs and we go through each kind of game and whatever, the one thing I want to talk about is how the Titans used deception to win the Super Bowl, or even get to the Super Bowl. That's something that I find very fascinating. So that's something
Oh
I
yeah,
want to
where
talk
he
about
would
on its own.
throw ridiculously and then run in the playoffs against people.
Yeah, it's
It's a good way to change
we'll
it up a
get
little
there.
bit.
We'll get there.
We'll
So
get there.
I think, and I kind of backing away from the Falcons. I think Falcons, just real quick to wrap that end up. I think Falcons are going to be good. I think Mike will pull off. I think his record at the end of the year. I'm going to go out. I'm going to say it's not going to be 12-4. I think 10-6 is probably going to be the way to go, because he has to play the top teams from each NFC division. So that's something he has to do, and that's not that's not going to be easy. And then he also has to play an AFC division, which I don't know exactly which one, but I think it's the AFC South. And that's no cakewalk either.
Yeah, that's a tough division.
Yeah, so that's
The
going
only
to
team
be.
there being the Colts being easy. That's a cake. That's a cupcake. But you
But
got the
other than
Jaguars,
that,
Texans.
yeah, and then you got the Titans who won the Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
I do actually want to kind of back away here for a minute. I want to go to the playoffs because we could spend all day recapping
Yeah.
every little
Yeah,
piece of
yeah.
last year. I do want to go into the scheduling, show you guys the playoffs, talk a little bit about the playoffs, and exactly kind of break it down round to round. So let's see here, postseason wild card. So in the first set of games, you had the Titans over the Chargers, which was 31-14. That one was kind of predictable in a way. The Chargers, I mean, they were kind of an up and down team. They finished 10-6, and Tennessee just kind of was steamrolling everybody. So that one was a little bit predictable. But then you also had the Packers against the Lions, where the Lions won 55-21. It was tight though through the first half. I mean, it was 24-21 going into halftime, and then it just, I don't know what happened, but Green Bay just kind of fell apart in that game.
I wanna talk about the lackluster game. Let's look at this 16-13 game. That game looks.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this. Like the other games are kind of blowouts. This one game kind of stuck in my mind a little bit.
Yeah, it was an
This
overtime
I'm talking
game. Yep.
Yeah. Between
Overtime.
the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Miami Dolphins. I mean, Roethlisberger did not look good. I mean, he
No.
threw for almost 400 yards, but 5 interceptions.
True, but neither did Tannehill. I mean, Tannehill had 4 on his own as well.
Yeah. That's a crazy game in its own right. No running back ran for over 60 yards, but Antonio Brown took over that game. Let's point this out a little bit. Antonio Brown had 256 yards and a touchdown. You think you run down the field almost 3 times, you get more than 1 touchdown out of it, but
Right. Yeah. No, I'd say that game did stick out in the first week, and it was kind of interesting because I remember talking to Coach Stupsky after that one, and he was like, "Yeah, I almost lost to the CPU," which that would have been completely depressing. But I will say too, though, the 49ers and Vikings blowout, that I didn't see that coming. We're 31-7, San Fran. I know that Coach Holzendorf. I know that he had some issues in that game. He was saying he just kind of played. He wasn't ready. He just played like crap.
it also helps the 49ers that there wasn't a lot of tape because there were some issues where he was with the team and he wasn't with the team. I mean, that definitely helps you as a person. Like, yeah, you don't get to play with your team, but there's not a lot of scouting on you either, especially if your team performs without you.
Exactly. And the reason, and now I don't think everybody knows this who's here now, so I'll just go back and kind of backtrack to the beginning of the season. The reason why Chad wasn't with I guess Coach Babbitt wasn't with the team at the beginning of the season. I mean, he was, but he ran into an issue where he did not read the rules, so he was kind of not following along. He got the boot for that because you got to read rules. He ended up breaking a rule, trading with CPU, things like that. So something that we're very strict on here. So he got the boot, and then we said, you know what, it wasn't that bad. You can come back. So we got him back, and he did okay for his first game back.
Divisional round.
Yeah, he beat Minnesota pretty bad. So, I feel like that was a win on our part. And then also when you move on to the next round, the divisional round here. So Steelers-Browns, that game was tight. That game was good. 19-14, the Browns pulled it out, and I was watching that game, and that game was something. That was an intense game. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I'll pull up the stats really quick, but let's see here. No single person really tore up this game except for once again Antonio Brown and Landry, I guess.
No, and Antonio Brown, I mean, he's a hard guy to stop. I mean, 156 and a touchdown. I feel like he could throw just little tiny little slant routes all game to Antonio Brown, and he'll just stumble into 300-yard games. Like, it's insane.
I guess Cleveland's one issue is they just need to get the ball to Landry more. I mean, 2 receptions, 72 yards. That is an absurd stat right there. I mean, he even had a touchdown with it.
Yeah, exactly.
This was definitely a close game and one that I was definitely penciling down as one to watch this week. or
Hmm.
the week it happened. I even talked to Paulie, the coach of the Browns, before this game. He's like, "Do you have any scouting on the on Pittsburgh?" And I'm like, "Well, I didn't play the man,
Right.
but I know one thing. He's got Antonio Brown, and that guy is not fun to stop."
No, not at all. So, no,
And
yeah, that
yeah,
was that match was pretty nuts. I think too. Then you get down to San Fran shutting out the Eagles. That one came to me as a surprise. I know that they
that's another one.
played. Yeah, I know they played in the snow, so that had a lot to do with it. Um, but Philly, man, Philly's got a tough D, and that's why it was only 12 points put up by San Fran. So that was
Yeah.
not a whole lot to
Jimmy
really
G.
say, but yeah, Jimmy G was. Let's see what he did. I believe he kind of, yeah, he had an
One
okay
TD.
game.
Yeah, he had a very mediocre game. Carson Wentz had an awful
Yeah,
game, and
7 picks.
something that that can't happen. You can't have a superstar quarterback come into a postseason, the divisional round, and just get blown out like that. Yeah, it's in the snow, but
Yeah.
you also didn't run the ball that well either.
Well, and trust me,
I
it
mean,
does happen, and we'll see that in the Super Bowl when we get to
yeah,
that. So, but then also too, then in this divisional round, we also had the Titans uh, by a slim margin over the Chiefs. That game. I expected a higher score than 28-23, based on the high-profile quarterbacks that were in this one.
well,
But
if you listen to these two guys talk in the smack chat, they hold each other in a high regard. Um, there's not much more else to it. I think that these are two of our best players that we got in the league. I
yeah,
definitely think that it's no joke that this guy won the passing title with Mariota as his
yeah,
quarterback. I can't wait to see what he does with Cousins, an actual passing quarterback.
yeah.
And Patrick Mahomes, let's just be honest. The guy was a rookie, probably got into his head a little bit through 3 interceptions. I
Hmm.
mean, take one of those away, Kansas City walks away with this. I mean, there's not much
Exactly.
else to say.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously you had the Lions Falcons 34-3. We covered that a little bit. That game, we'll pull up the stats here a little bit. Yeah, this game was lopsided. If you look at the offensive yards, the Lions 364 to 112 for the Falcons. Now the Falcons had one of the better defenses or one of the better offenses coming into this game. So that was something that was a little bit surprising. And let me see if I can pull up exactly how good they were, because I do believe that the Falcons had a stellar offense going into this one. But how did you when you saw that score? What did you think about that one?
I know the history between these two coaches. I know one's always kind of been inside the head of the other, and I think that's a lot that has to do with it. It's a confidence issue. I think that Atlanta just didn't come out to show up to play is more of the sense. Um, I definitely think that if this was to happen again, the nerves would go away and it would be a lot closer score.
Yeah, I think you're right on the head with that. And yeah, the interesting thing, Atlanta was the fifth best rushing offense in the NFL this year. Um, so
26 yards.
that says something. Yeah, and he ended up with 36 yards actually with fully rushing.
Oh,
So
oh,
now, and that's I don't know if that's something because I know Detroit's defense, they're good, and there were some adjustments that might have been made during that game. Because I know with the previous weeks prior to that, it was a little different. Because Detroit, 25th in the league in rushing yards. So for defense for Detroit, so um,
yeah.
to be able to stop, the fifth best in the league, that was kind of an interesting matchup. So that was something that we got
Once
to see
again,
there.
if I'm to reiterate on this, I definitely think that you go into a game after playing this guy pretty much your entire Madden career, you kind of get to know each other a little bit. You're kind of in each other's heads.
Mhm.
I mean, I think Detroit has got the better hand of this one. I definitely think it could change though.
For sure, for sure. And then moving on to the postseason conference matchups. So the conference championships here, interesting backstory to the 49ers and Lions. That game did not get played. The Lions ended up moving on to the Super Bowl from this game. Um, Again, I don't know what it is with the 49ers, with Coach Babbitt, but he did end up missing a scheduled time, which was voted on that it should move to a sim. So that ended up happening. Um,
I remember that.
yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting story. I think Detroit definitely lucked out a little bit, but he was not happy about that at all.
Yeah.
He wanted to play the game. He came there to play. Definitely seemed like one of those situations. But moving on from that, I kind of want to talk about this Browns thing. I was pulling for the Browns this whole year. I mean, regardless of the coach and everything else, I want to see this team be good. And man, they really choked here. They dropped the ball
Yeah, but
losing this game.
I will say though it is a little bit tough though when you have, what ended up being the Super Bowl champs across from you.
Yes.
That's something that's a little bit that is something that's a little bit different here. We do have a question that came in. It looks like we have a question from the Cowboys just now, or I guess a little bit ago about Coach Topping's bad trading. So so we'll talk about this here. We'll talk about this here for a sec. The trade that Coach Topping made there's two specific trades that stick out in this one. One ended up benefiting my team. One ended up benefiting the Minnesota Vikings. So the NFC North greatly appreciates Coach Topping for all of his generous donations. If you want to put it that way.
Now he's on the Raiders, so I'm just throwing that out there.
So here's how it went down. So I know a lot of people, their minds were blown when they saw the trade come through. I think it was week 3 or 4 or whatever it may have been.
Yeah, it was early in the season too.
So I as some of you may know, most of you in the league know me personally. Me and Phil work together. And at work I said to Phil, hey Phil, what are you looking to do with Marshawn Lattimore? And he goes, well, he is my best player on my defense. I said, yes, I know that. I said, I want to get him together with Slay. Okay, so we talked about it for a few days. And I told him, I said, I'm going to send you a deal. It's going to be a big one. I want you to look at it. So I sent him those 4 players that I sent, which I believe it was, Glover Quinn, Quandre Diggs, Michael Roberts, Amir Abdullah, for Sheldon Rankins, Marshawn Lattimore. I just sent that straight up, just like that.
Yeah.
Took him a minute to think about it. So he's taking a little bit longer than I wanted to because we were approaching, the end of the week, and I wanted to get it done before moving to the next game. And so I called him and I said, hey, Phil. I said, I want you to think about this trade here for a sec, Phil. I said, I want to do this trade. I want to make sure this goes through before the week's done. I said, let me know, yes or no. I need to know. So he's like, okay, let me think about it for a sec. So he thinks about it. And he goes, okay, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. And so I was like, okay. I was like, but here's the deal. I'm not just going to give you these 4 players for those 2 players. I was like, there's no way that's going through. I said, so I was like, I'm going to add a 4th. I'm going to add a 7th because you can't just accept it with those. So I added a little bit more value, gave it to him. I felt that was fair. And then he actually asked me about the Drew Brees for Kirk Cousins. So the conversation that was had with that trade, Kirk Cousins wanted out of Minnesota. Coach wanted him out of Minnesota. Drew Brees wanted out of New Orleans. Coach wanted him out of New Orleans. So it's kind of a perfect storm of 2 people who did not like their quarterbacks. Phil, at that point in time, Phil was like, okay, my season's basically done. I'll just.
3,
he's like, I'll just.
3 or 4.
No, it was later than that. It was right before the deadline, I believe. So it was like week 7 or 8. He was like, yeah, you know what? He's like, what do you think? Should I do Drew Brees or Kirk Cousins straight up? I was like, well, here's the deal. You're getting rid of a guy that's 39, who's like 80 whatever overall, and you're getting a guy who's like 30, who's a little bit less overall, but he's younger. I was like, nah. I mean, if you like Kirk Cousins, go for it. And so he's like, all right, cool, let's do it. So that's how that happened. So to answer your question, that's the story behind the Kirk Cousins, Drew Brees, and that's the story of how the Lions defense became what they did. So I guess we can move to the Super Bowl here. 31-10, Tennessee beat Detroit. I did not think that either of these teams. When I go back to the divisional round, or the conference round.
Down a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
Let's look at the text behind this.
But when I when I go back real quick to the conference round, there's only one team that's in that conference round that I actually anticipated getting here, and that's the Browns.
Yeah.
So that's already right there. That's something I was kind of blown away by. Beginning of the season, when this came up, I thought it was for sure going to be the Browns versus Kansas City, and I thought for sure Minnesota and the Falcons. When it came to, that's what I thought it would be. So it's kind of an interesting thing that it was literally only one of those 4 teams ended up doing it. So, but yeah, let's go to the Super Bowl. So 31-10.
5 intercepted. That's gotta hurt. As just as a Detroit Lions fan, that's gotta hurt. Seeing your knight in shining armor go out on the field and give you that kind of product.
So not only was it 5 interceptions, but there were also 2 fumble recoveries. So 7 total turnovers that happened.
Yeah, that's definitely not a good concoction to try to win yourself a Super Bowl.
No, and I even said it during the game.
That's not how you draw it up. I mean,
No.
obviously you don't plan for interceptions in your game plan. That's something that happens. You only drop back 22 times. I mean, maybe Theo Riddick should have get moving a little bit more, or maybe give carry on a few shots. What do you think was going through Detroit's head on that?
So, going into this game, the one thing that I do want to point out, so the way that it was game planned was interesting. So when you look at Tennessee is, and I don't know if Tennessee is watching. I don't know if Brock is here. I don't know if he's watching. If you're here, Brock, let us know. Not that you're like a ghost or some spirit, but legit, let us know. Because I would love to hear your input on this and how close this is to what I'm about to say. So when you looked at Tennessee and you saw what he was doing all year, the game plan going into this game for the Detroit Lions was stopping the run and forcing the pass. Now that sounds completely ass backwards because Marcus Mariota was the MVP this year. Because he set the record for most passing yards this season. But when you look at the actual tape, when you watch exactly what he was doing this year, his major passing games and passing performances came against computer teams. His games against real players, it was all Derrick Henry all day. So if you stop the run, force him to pass, that's your best bet at winning that game. And that was a game plan that came through my mind going into this one, was thinking, Derrick Henry doesn't run the ball all over my ass, I will be fine. I should be okay. My defense should stop the pass. We should be good to go.
I guess we should look at it this way. I mean, yeah, you stop Derrick Henry, but then again, I understand that he's doing it against computer teams, but that's still the MVP out there. You still have to respect that.
It's still,
you can't just blitz 9 every play. It's not like something like that.
And it's not a matter of
every play might have helped.
And it's not it's not a matter of blitzing, because that came, towards the end of the game when you get up there, you get about 5 interceptions in, or even 3 interceptions in, and you're kind of like, okay, I'm kind of shit in the bed here with my, the best part of my offense, which is passing. That's shitting the bed. I need to figure something out. When that's lacking in a game like this, the ball is going to be run more because that score is driven up. It's separated further. Derrick Henry had like no yards in the first half, like nothing. I'm pretty sure he had like maybe 20 yards, no touchdowns, no nothing. And then Marcus Mariota didn't really do a whole lot either. I think he had 1 touchdown pass in the first half, if I'm not mistaken, and that was because the ball, he's not even on the team anymore, so I can't even see. That's weird. But the ball was like, turned over right in the red zone, so that's going to give him the chance to score right away. But the biggest thing is
that's what I was wondering. Yeah.
calling a compact defense against a run game like that is what my strategy was. So going into that game, knowing what I wanted to do, sticking to the game plan, which I did. I didn't deviate from the game plan a whole lot. The only problem is I didn't execute the game plan. So when, in my mind, and this is giving you guys a little bit of Madden, like, intel, I guess, from the way that I look at the game. And usually I won't do this. So, like, this is something I don't do ever. But
yeah,
when I saw that, when I knew I had to stop Derrick Henry, you call the box, like, blown up. You want to do something where everybody's in there, but you can also still cover everything. And really, I felt that the only the only formation that was going to give me that advantage was going to be a 4-6 defense, running that 4-6 the whole time, piling up in the middle, but having 3 corners to be able to cover still. Because a lot of the times you'll see him come out in a 3 wide receiver set with 1 tight end and 1 running back. So it's something that you kind of gotta, fucking figure it out basically. But yeah, that game was just brutal. That game was bad.
So to cap off that season, I mean, the Titans obviously are the winner. I think the only thing they didn't win was best head coach, which went to the Browns. They won the MVP, they won the Super Bowl. That's all you can really ask for your team, I guess. Ask for any more might be a little too much.
No, yeah, and I'd say rightfully so that the Browns win head coach of the year, going from 0-16 to 14-2. That's a big step. So I think
that's
So I think what we're gonna do here, to kind of cap off the podcast, if you guys have any further questions, please sound off in either the YouTube chat or sound off in the Discord chat. Let us know some questions. If you plan on calling in, let us know. We can go ahead and get your input. We are going to go ahead and look at the draft class board for this year here. Coach of the year is a sham, according to Coach Wellens of the Bengals. So we're going to look at the draft board. Now, I'm not going to show you my draft board for obvious reasons. So I will pull up a different franchise that I just made just to see the players and things like that. This is something that me and Kyle went through, and this is, we'll call it the Tyler Tolman draft board. We'll just say that. There we go. Perfect. Who goes number 1 overall? Great question, Connor. We'll get there. Let me pull this bad boy up. So the way that we went about this whole entire thing was we looked at each team's needs, we looked at who they needed the most, and we went through that route. And that's something where we feel that these players would fit. Obviously, that's what you want to do with a draft board, and we'll give you reasons why. So when we start out, Kyle, who do you have? Let's see. If you want to tell me the team, and I will go ahead and give you the player and the reason.
We can go with the first pick, Arizona. Where do you think they go here?
So I think Arizona takes a free safety. I think they take Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, the hybrid safety out of Florida. I just think that with the talent that they have, there's really not a whole lot there for them. I think, what was it? Do you remember the other positions? I know they were looking at like offensive line, I think, and things like that, and linebackers.
Offensive line, I know defensive tackle was one, which is where I'm going to kind of defer a little bit against you.
Sure.
I think they go Ed Oliver. I think Ed Oliver might be the best player in this draft. And it's definitely a need for them besides quarterback, which they have a plethora of, a whole bunch of mediocre, and one guy that's on his second year.
Yeah.
They could definitely go receiver, I think. Let me pull up their needs really quick.
Yeah, and when I'm looking at the roster here, the biggest reason that I did go free safety and I did go Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is just because of the fact that when you look at their defensive tackles, the defensive tackles are led, it's Robert Ndiche and then P.J. Hall. So those are 2 young guys who can develop. So I think that's a big thing, as I think Arizona's going to let them develop. Ed Oliver is, in my opinion, one of the top guys in this draft as far as talent goes. But when you look at their free safeties, Antoine Bethea is 35 years old. He is their number 1 free safety currently, with a guy named Rudy Ford, who's 24 years old, 71 overall. I think the combination of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Budda Baker would be a deadly unit in that backfield. In the back. I think, trying to throw and trying to air out on the Arizona defense, it's like when you had Tyrann Mathieu back there. It's not going to happen with these 2 guys. So I think that would be their best bet for their number 1 pick.
Yeah, I get that a little bit. But then again, that might still be a reach with the number 1 pick. Go free safety, you think? I think maybe the best case scenario, they trade out and they get someone better.
So it could be a reach, but when you look at safeties and the way that safeties develop in Madden, safeties actually develop a little bit faster than any other position. So for some reason, Madden just favors safeties. It is the weirdest thing ever. but I've always noticed this: if you draft a fast safety, that guy's going to be good. And he's going to be really good, and he's going to be hard to stop. But I think, and what's the next team that we have on the board there?
The next team are the Jets, and the Jets took Sam Darnold last year. They still, in my opinion, I think they're a little weak at that quarterback position. Even with Sam Darnold, it's the only guy they got. Maybe they go and double up this year and take another one. I think that's definitely a possibility for them.
Yeah, no, I do agree that the quarterback position in New York is a little lackluster for the Jets. However, I think that their key need here is going to be left guard. And I think that's where they take Michael Jordan out of Ohio State with their second overall pick. And Andy Levitre is their number one left guard currently. He's 33 years old, not very talented. And then you got a Wesley Johnson behind him who also not very talented, also getting up there in age at 28. So I think that's where Michael Jordan could kind of round out that line. Be the key point. Their best offensive lineman is Kelvin Beachum and Spencer Long, both who are 75, both approaching 30. So I think getting somebody like Michael Jordan in there to be that anchor for that offensive line to build, I think that's going to be something that moving forward is going to help not only Sam Darnold develop as a quarterback, but also allow the run game to thrive a little bit, because Michael Jordan is an agile type player. He is that type of player that can run block, he can pass block, he can move quick, so he'll be able to open holes, or he'll be able to stop guys from rushing in and getting to the quarterback.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, coming up next is the same team with the third and fourth pick in the draft. It's the Chicago Bears.
Chicago Bears. So your Chicago Bears here with the third and the fourth pick. I noticed that the Chicago Bears, we were talking a little bit about it, right guard, or I guess offensive line and defensive line. So the trenches is a big concern for the Bears. I know with the acquisition last year of Ziggy Ansah, it helped a little bit, but I know it might not have helped as much as once was anticipated. Also, I do want to point out for you guys in the YouTube chat, we will get to your questions here about some of this other stuff just after we get through the draft board. So we'll get there, ask your questions, and we'll be able to get to those questions after the fact. So right guard being the number one concern after Kevin Zeitler, I'm going to say Kevin Zeitler was shipped off to the Rams for this draft pick. So basically, it's you shipped off the right guard to get another right guard, is what I'm looking at it as. So Ross, I'm going to butcher this, Ross Pierschbacher out of Alabama. He is the pick that I think the Bears are going to go with that third pick. Power type right guard, so he's going to be really good with strength, being able to hold those guys up. Little undersized, 6'3", 338, but he should be able to make up for it in strength with what he doesn't have in vertical ability. And then I think with the Chicago Bears' next pick, they're going to go right end. And I think here at right end, they're actually going to go Clelin Ferrell out of Clemson, who's a power rusher. So he's really going to help get to the quarterback and really round out that defense.
All right. I mean, a little different way than I went with these two picks. I think the Bears are definitely hurting after losing Des Bryant at that wide receiver position, and there's definitely a guy that's in the top 5 of this talent that's playing that position in A.J. Brown. I think this kid tore it up for Ole Miss and is currently tearing it up for Ole Miss, and I think that's definitely a big splash pick if they want to make a big splash pick this year.
No, and I do agree with you there. Yep.
The other position I'm thinking is what they might do is they might take one of these defensive ends and convert them to left outside linebacker. So they might be looking at a player like Joey Bosa or Dexter Lawrence or one of these outside linebackers that just can do crazy things.
Yeah, no, that would be a good idea as well on their part. And yeah, so I guess the next team that we do have though up on the board here is going to be Denver. Denver, their number one need was defensive tackle. And the reason being is they don't have a defensive tackle. So they have no defensive tackle on their team. What I think here, because you have Derek Wolf on the end, Bradley Chubb, really good star, and then you got Von Miller behind you. That's already dangerous. But I think what they're going
That's
to
very
do,
dangerous.
and I think what they're going to do is they're going to add Ed Oliver, the defensive tackle out of Houston, with this spot. I know it's a little higher on the board than most people think, but I do think that this is the spot that he goes, just based on the previous things that we've talked about. So
Yeah, I definitely do think that that would be a steal at that position. And I also think that they're going to go offensive line, or not offensive line, but defensive line,
mhm,
and go with either Ed Oliver or Nick Bosa. I mean, Nick Bosa is still sitting there. It's kind of hard not to look at that name and see what his brother did in the league and
exactly.
not take him with a top 5 pick.
That is true, but
Moving on.
when you do have Derek Wolf and Bradley Chubb, I think that's kind of where you got to look at not having a defensive tackle at all. Is Nick Bosa going to be a good fit at D tackle, or Derek Wolf, or Bradley Chubb? Somebody's got to move to that interior spot, and I think that's where, rather than trying to train an interior or an exterior lineman to be an interior lineman, I think what they're going to do is they're just going to get the interior lineman. And I don't think they'd be skipping a beat at all by getting either Ed Oliver or Nick Bosa. So I think either way that they go would be a good bet.
The next team on the list is Cincinnati with the 6th pick.
Yeah, and Cincinnati, they really lack in linebackers. They do have Vontez Burfict, penalty machine, Vontez Burfict. However, I do think with their first pick, they're going to go with left outside linebacker Josh Allen out of Kentucky. He's a run-stopping linebacker. Nick Vigil is their leading guy right now. He's 26, 73 overall. Not a whole lot of upside there. So I do believe that Josh Allen would fit that mold, and I do think that he's going to be the guy that they need to really round out that defense. Because they have Malcolm Butler, they have Darquez Dennard and Dre Kirkpatrick in the backfield holding them up. So I think if you have that interior a little bit of these guys, Vontez, Josh Allen, and I think Nick, how do you say that? Kwiatkowski, whatever. He's a stud too. So that would really round out that linebacking core. And really get them moving on defense.
I think my 2 cents with the Bengals, you got this old guy with red hair playing quarterback back there. I think that he might want to make a bigger splash than going somewhere else here. He might want to go after one of these top 2 quarterbacks, top 3 quarterbacks. If you look at the kid from Auburn, but I think he goes Drew Lock here. The guy is probably the best arm talent in this draft. I definitely think that Cincinnati wants to make a big splash after a lackluster season. It doesn't want any more of the same stuff, going 4-11-1. I think that the change of quarterback is coming in Cincinnati.
It could be. And then our next team being Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, when we looked at, now obviously Tampa Bay being a CPU team, that is fine. We're still going to cover them. DeAndre Baker, the number 1 cornerback projected in the draft. I think this would be a good fit for Tampa Bay. Vernon Hargreaves and Ryan Smith are their top 2 guys currently at that position. That's adding to Jimmy Ward, and it looks like Maurice Alexander. So it kind of gives them a little bit of a nice mix up there. Not a whole lot of high-end talent. I mean, Vernon Hargreaves has potential to be a really, really good corner. But DeAndre Baker, he could really help in that nickel position. He could help covering that slot. That's something where I think that they're really going to round it out nicely by getting him.
I think Tampa might go with a left tackle here. I think that having 73 on your offensive line is definitely a liability, and something that if you want to change your season around, they got their quarterback in Jameis Winston. They're not moving on from him. They want to keep him healthy. I think they take a kid by the name of Greg Little from Ole Miss. I mean, I think that'd be a perfect pick for them and a perfect fit. It's a plug and play. Yeah, that's what I got from Tampa.
Perfect. And the next team would be Carolina Panthers. So Coach Tillotson, lackluster season. We talked about that a little bit earlier in the show. Here, I think if I pull it up here on Daddy Leagues, I could just take a peek at it quick. I think what would really help him out, and I know we talked about this a little bit, is that he is very, very, very much lacking at left tackle. Matt Khalil is his left tackle. He's a 68 overall, and he's 30 years old. So that's not going to work. That's not going to keep your guy covered.
Not going to help at all.
Now, this is where some of you guys may be a little bit shocked here when I say this. I think the best fit for the Carolina Panthers at left tackle is actually going to be Jonah Williams out of Alabama. So I do have him going ahead of Greg Little, and the only reason I have him going ahead is because I think he'd be a better fit for that offensive line, being an agile left tackle. He helps with the run game, he helps with the pass game, he's quick to move, so you do dump passes to McCaffrey or you want Cam to run. I think Jonah Williams would be able to get downfield, block faster. I think that's really going to help in the long run with the Panthers. So that's the pick I went with at that position at number 8.
100% agree with that pick, and I had something else, but looking at this, having a 68 overall left tackle, that's definitely absurd having that good of an offense.
Exactly.
I think Jonah Williams does fit them better than Greg Little does. Greg Little's a pass protector, and that's obviously a hybrid run offense. And yeah, I think Jonah Williams definitely would be a good spot for him to go there. The next team would be Indianapolis.
Yeah,
and they have a hard-hitting need at middle linebacker.
So they do. That is something that when I looked at their team, hard-hitting need at middle linebacker, you are correct with that. Let's see here. Let me just pull it up really quick. So they do have a hard-hitting need at middle linebacker. When we look at their linebacking core, their best linebacker is Darius Leonard. Now, he's only 24, 74 overall, so it's really not that bad. And what I ended up going with here is I went with a right tackle because Matt Tobin, 66 overall, 29, same situation as Carolina.
Yeah.
Terrible, terrible lineman trying to cover a spot that really needs coverage. Those tackle positions are the two most important positions on your offensive line. That is why I went with Michael Dieter out of Wisconsin, the power right tackle, to keep Andrew Luck upright because Andrew Luck, as we all know, a little bit injury prone. So you want to protect the quarterback. That's going to get you more success. Middle linebacker, I don't think they need to worry too much because I think Darius Leonard will develop into a nice player. Their linebacking core is lackluster. Maybe they grab a linebacker second round because there is quite a bit of linebacker talent in this draft. So I'm going right tackle Michael Dieter on this one.
I think my name would be Trey Lamar right now. I mean, the kid had a nice combine. He's projected up higher in this draft. He's a run stopper. That's a 3-4 defense, so I think they're going to need another linebacker to kind of pair with that other guy who's trying to come into his own. Just Leonard is good in his own right, but you can't start Antonio Morris in there and expect great things. I definitely think Trey Lamar would be a good pick for this team. But then again, needs all over the place. I mean, it's Indianapolis, like we're talking about here. They got Andrew Luck and T.Y. Hilton. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. And that's, that is a little bit why, though, too, you think maybe offensive line's better because, when your offense is the thing that is holding your team together, that's the thing you want to protect the most. So I think that's kind of also why I went with the right tackle pick. But, yeah, moving on, who's the next team that we have then here?
Dallas and their boy Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott is definitely a liability for them.
Well, keep in mind, he's gone. Deshaun Kaiser's there now.
Oh, well, then even more so. I think this is where Justin Herbert comes off the board. I mean, he kind of fits their system a little bit better than Drew Lock. And Jared Stidham, I think this is still a reach for him at the 10th spot. But Justin Herbert, if he slips to them, I think it's a very good quarterback. He's got a very strong arm. He's a scrambler, so he can move around in that pocket, and that's a very good offensive line. You might want to get a quarterback to help out on that team.
So here we go. You got Tyron Smith, 97 overall. You got your left guard, Connor Williams, 22 years old, 77 overall. He's going to be a beast. You got Travis Frederick, 96, 28 overall. You got right guard, Zach Martin, 28 years old, 97. Cameron Fleming, right tackle, 69, 26 years old. I'm not worried about the right tackle. I am not even remotely worried about the right tackle because you make up for it with the other four. Yeah. I agree with you, though. Justin Herbert is my pick with the Dallas Cowboys. This is something that could add a little bit of spice to the Dallas Cowboys offense. Justin Herbert, scrambling quarterback. He's quick. He's got speed. He reminds me of Marcus Mariota coming out of Oregon. Same school. Could you imagine Dallas running their offense like Cam Newton and Christian McCaffrey run their offense in Carolina with Zeke and Herbert? And then you got that offensive line. And then you got Herbert, most likely going to be Rookie of the Year candidate because he's going to pass all over defenses with that offensive line holding them up. I think that is a big, bold prediction.
Definitely.
I think
the
that's the
comparison
spot.
to Cam Newton. I like the comparison. The guy's 6'6", 230, and that strong arm. I mean, Mariota's got a decent arm, but it's not strong.
Yeah.
Cam Newton has a very strong arm.
I think that
this.
Oh, go ahead.
Better. I think that's the better comparison. Look at Cam Newton when you look at this kid.
Yeah.
I mean, running their offense, switching that playbook, or doing whatever you got to do to get it to look like Carolina's. That's not little Christian McCaffrey running the ball. That is a man running the football.
That's Zeke.
Zeke is impossible to stop.
You're not stopping him. And if you got Justin Herbert with the size of Cam Newton and the throwing ability of a Ben Roethlisberger, I mean, come on. You're not. He's 6'6", and he's a scrambling quarterback. That's insane.
It's something.
That's big. So then moving on, we have the Seattle Seahawks. Everybody knows this. They have issues on the offensive line. They can't throw the ball. Worst throwing offense in the league. And actually, I should say, he did finish a little bit better. He ended up being worse in the rushing game. He was actually second to last, 31st. His passing yards did get a little bit better at the end there, but I do remember when I played Seattle at midseason, he had the worst passing offense in the league, and it showed. And I think a lot of it was pressure on Russell Wilson not being able to get the ball out. Adrian Waddle is the number one left tackle, and I think here this would be a good time for Greg Little to come off the board. So I have Greg Little falling back to the Seattle Seahawks to round out that. Not even round out, but just to help bolster that offensive line.
I switched my pick earlier where you gave up Dieter. I think this is where Dieter goes. I think they definitely are hurting at that right tackle position at a 69 overall. They're hurting everywhere on that offensive line, let's be honest. But I think Dieter gives them a better position because Russell Wilson's not getting any younger. He can't really take any more hits. You don't want to see your quarterback getting hit like that, and offensive line is definitely the surefire way to go with the Seattle pick.
Yeah, I agree there. I guess we'll get into rapid here. We'll go a little bit faster. The next team, New England Patriots. I think we're in agreement here, in a way. I think this is the spot. You know, you have Tom Brady just retired. I think Drew Lock becomes a New England Patriot with this pick. I think the 12th pick. New England, Drew Lock. He has the most upside as a standalone quarterback, not as a dual threat like Justin Herbert. I think standalone quarterback, Drew Lock, he's a better quarterback. He's a little bit more poised in the pocket. He's going to help that New England team quite a bit if they do end up snagging him this deep in the draft. So I think that would be something. I don't think he's going to be a Tom Brady. I think coming out, I think he's going to look a little bit closer to maybe being a field general. He might be more of like a Matt Ryan type. And I think that's kind of what you're going to see. It depends on how the Patriots organization is going to use him, though.
I think that they get unlucky here, and it's not that bad of unlucky, but I think they end up getting Jarrett Stidham, just because I don't think those other two quarterbacks drop this far. I think Jarrett Stidham's going to be perfect for them. They just signed RG3. I mean, obviously they like scrambling quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with Jarrett Stidham here just because the guy's still got a decent arm. And let's face it, Brady was 6'3", Jarrett Stidham 6'3". I mean, we might want to go with that. I'm not sure.
Right. So then when we move on, we go to the Buffalo Bills. So it's the CPU team, so I'll kind of gloss a little bit here. Buffalo Bills, This pick might shock some people because this is slipping. This pick here is going to be Nick Bosa. This is where Nick Bosa goes. Buffalo needs help on the defensive line.
That's a bold prediction. I'm sorry. That's definitely bold.
So they have Shaq Lawson. However, when Nick Bosa's available,
You draft Nick Bosa.
you draft Nick Bosa. You don't let Nick Bosa go. And especially when you're a CPU team, you need a little help on that line there. They have Shaq Lawson. He's 78, but he's 25, so he's kind of getting into that area where he's not really going to develop that fast anymore. Nick Bosa, 22 years old, he's probably going to be a 78 when he gets drafted. So just to show you the upside that is going to be there, I think Nick Bosa goes at 13.
I think that's definitely a slip for Bosa. I mean, projected number 2 of the thing. I think he gets snagged earlier, but I can definitely see that fit. I definitely think that they might go left end. They might go somewhere else. For me, it's defensive tackle, and I think they get an absolute steal with Raekwon Davis here as well. It's not as much as a steal as Bosa, but Raekwon Davis is definitely a good steal this late in the draft.
Yeah.
Bolstering that defense up a little bit.
Yeah, and I think either way you go, this could be a really good pick. But yeah, and then we'll move on. So we're going to right now we will be at Washington. So I think here with Washington, this is kind of an interesting pick. So this pick is a little bit different. I went with Devin White here. Devin White, middle linebacker out of LSU. Now, you might be saying, okay, Devin White, that's kind of a weird pick, considering Ryan Kerrigan's there, considering you have Zach Brown. I think what they're going to do is I think you're going to pick up a guy like Devin White, and you're going to move him to that other outside linebacker position, where currently you have Ryan Anderson, 73 overall. Somebody's going to be moved around. Devin White's going to round out that linebacking core, and I think you're really going to get a smooth defense that really is just going to stop the run. You're not going to run at all against this team. They just have too much. They have too much going on. This defense is going to be incredible, especially if they can get a Devin White or even a Trey Lamar. But I do have Devin White going in front of Trey Lamar in this instance. I just feel it's better.
I think that you're on the right track here. I'm not going to throw you under the bus completely, but I think that this is where Josh Allen goes. I like having the opposite, taking an outside linebacker from one side of the field and throwing him on the other side instead of trying to pull a middle linebacker from the inside and send them out.
Sure.
I think that Josh Allen, and that might be because he went earlier in your draft, but I think Josh Allen is definitely going here. He's going to be an amazing person to pair with Ryan Kerrigan, and that pass rush is going to be nasty.
Of course, yeah. No, I can see that. Either way, I mean, they're going to get a good player here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and as we move on here, we're going to move to the Oakland Raiders with the 15th pick. All I got to do is go one guy down. I think Trey Lamar goes here, and I think that would be the right move for Oakland. They need to get that defense a little bit more bolstered. Not a terrible defense. They got Khalil Mack on the outside. But if you add a guy like Trey Lamar to this defense, it's going to be nasty. You got Khalil Mack at left end. Tahir Whitehead is left outside linebacker. Now, Markel Lee, 71 overall. He's 23. He's got room. But Trey Lamar fills that position a little bit better. And then, of course, Nicholas Morrow is your right outside linebacker. So I think Trey Lamar is a good fit here.
I think you're on to something, but I think we talked about this a little bit before the show. I definitely think that this is the perfect spot for the second best offensive player to come off the board, and that is Bryce Love. I mean, they got a different running back by the name of Damian Williams. All right, he's 27, but you bring in a superstar like Bryce Love. I mean, look what Barkley did for the Giants last year. Bryce Love is another Heisman-winning talent. I definitely think he comes out here from Stanford and he shows up how to play in California. He stays at home. He goes to Oakland here with the 15th pick.
Perfect. And then with 16, we have Chicago. This one for me, in my board, this is, a little different. We talked about this earlier. This is where I have A.J. Brown going. A.J. Brown out of Ole Miss, deep threat. You talked about how Chicago might get him in the first place. I think when we look at all these receivers, look at all these guys that these teams ahead of Chicago have in the 16th pick. These other teams are pretty good with receivers. None of them really need to move all that much. Oakland's got Amari Cooper. You have Washington that's got dual threats with Richardson, Crowder's decent, and then you have Jordan Reed. I mean, there's a lot of teams up at the front end of the draft that don't really need any help with wide receivers. So I think A.J. Brown moves to Chicago here with the 16th pick.
I think, and I might have a little inside knowledge here, but I think Chicago might be looking at a right end here by the name of Dexter Lawrence, best one on the board. I think he might fall here. You had Kellen Farrell going sooner than him. They're both from Clemson, but I definitely think Dexter Lawrence drops. They lost Robert Ayers Jr. in the offseason to free agency, and I think they're going to try to fill that position with the 16th pick.
Sure thing. So then we move on to Jacksonville. Jacksonville's kind of an interesting team. They have talent. I mean, you have, Leonard Fournette's your running back, so you're pretty good there. They don't have a backup running back at the moment, so backup could be in place, but picking a backup is kind of not a good move in the first round. You want to pick somebody who's going to come in right away and dominate. So when I look at their team, I look at their defense. I look at Blair Brown, who's their starting middle linebacker, 25 years old, 70 overall, and I'm going to replace him with Anthony Jennings, who's a middle linebacker out of Alabama. He's a run-stopping linebacker. He's a beast. This guy, he's going to be all over the field, and I think he's the better fit here for this defense. You got Miles Jack playing next to him, and then Telvin Smith on the other side, and then you had Anthony Jennings. Forget about it. This defense would be insane.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're definitely on the right track. I mean, I have a better linebacker that I'm going to give them. Though I'm going to give them Devin White, slipping all the way down to this pick. I definitely think that I have the availability to do that because you put him in sooner. But
of course,
Devin White slips to this pick. I think Trey Lamar just had a better combine than him. I think Trey Lamar is going to go first, and then it's going to be Devin White.
Perfect.
And that's Jacksonville.
Yeah, and then we have the Giants as the next pick. So the Giants, their situation's kind of interesting. Their defensive line is what I focused on here. This is actually the pick that I had Raekwon Davis going to. Is I have him going to the Giants.
That's not a bad pick.
They need help on their defensive line. Dalvin Tomlinson, really good player. Best defensive tackle that they have is Harrison Phillips, though. 23 years old, 72 overall. It's not going to do him a whole lot of good. So I think, oh hey, you're going to see my brother. What's up, Michael? What up, boy?
What's up?
Yo, you're on the LBL podcast right now.
Wow.
Wow, you're famous.
Wow.
So
Sounds exciting.
so Raekwon Davis, though, he's going to go 18th here with the New York Giants. Did you have something different? I'm guessing you had something different since you had Raekwon going into a different spot.
Yeah, I had DeAndre Baker going here, best combine scorer in the draft. I'm a big combine guy.
So you had DeAndre falling way down from what I had then.
Yeah.
Dang, where'd I have? I had DeAndre. Holy balls! Yeah, I had DeAndre 7th. So yeah, that's a drop.
Yeah, that's an 18th pick. It's not bad. I mean, we can see it. What happens with corners? That combine score might push him up a little bit more than that. People might look at that 8.2 and be like, all right, well maybe he shouldn't be an 8th overall or 18th overall pick. Maybe he should go in the top 10. But I definitely think that he goes here. The next team I have is the Texans, who are also going to go back-to-back and take another corner. I think Greedy Williams comes off the board.
I was going to say.
That's an amazing name.
Yeah.
And I think Greedy Williams is definitely. They might get a little greedy with this and snag him there.
Ooh, I see what you did there. Yeah, I had Williams going to Houston as well, just because I think when I look at Houston's defense here, when I look at their corners, yeah, Aaron Colvin is their best corner at 82, and then Quandre Diggs. Actually, Quandre ended up somewhere in, he got from the Saints to there, so he must have been recently traded. And then Tease Tabor. So, needs a lot of work, so Greedy Williams is definitely the right pick here. The next team then that we move on to is going to be Baltimore. Baltimore's interesting. When we both went through here this far in the draft, it was kind of tough to put a finger on what Baltimore would do. Because to be completely honest with you, Baltimore is the most average team in the league, in my opinion. As far as depth goes, literally every spot that I'm looking at is like 80 overall. Like it's like 75, 80.
I think I'm gonna go ahead of you really quick and say that side of the offensive line is what they're gonna address. They might reach here. They might reach and go get one of these second round offensive linemen Then again, I also have Ross Beechabacher going right here. That name is atrocious,
Oh my God, no.
and I definitely think they snag him here. I don't think he goes to the Bears early on. Um, I think it's more so of trying to make a bigger splash after missing the playoffs with the Bears. I definitely think Baltimore gets to get Ross here. I think that'd be best for him.
Sure thing. Yeah, and I'm thinking here I went a little different route. In my draft board, I had offensive line pretty much scooped up at the beginning. So there's really not a whole lot
Yeah.
of talent at this point with offensive line left unless you reach. So I have Baltimore going with wide receiver Amon Richards out of Miami. I think here, getting a better getting a better wide receiver to replace, Michael Crabtree, he's okay. John Brown, he's okay. Willie Snead, I mean, their wide receiver core is lackluster. Even their tight end, I mean, they have
Definitely.
Hayden Hurst and Nick Boyle. So they need help with.
Hayden Hurst is decent, but we'll,
He's
we'll we'll
decent.
touch on that.
He's decent, but they need a little help there. So I think that's where Amon Richards can come in and do a really good job. So the next
Yeah.
team would be Miami. Miami CPU team. We don't really care about CPUs too much. But I guess what did you see when you looked at Miami? Was there anything that popped out at you?
Miami, they're corners. Now,
Corners, yeah.
I think that their corners they might go and snag. Um, here they might go and snag Trayvon Mullen. I think Mullen might be the best corner left on my draft board. Uh-oh, hold on. Yeah, your mic kind of pooped out a little bit. I think Trayvon Mullen might be a good spot for them to take here.
Yeah.
Looking at their cornerbacks, trying to pull it up. Um, yeah, they got a 85 overall Minka Fitzpatrick. That guy's not going anywhere. But after that, Xavier Howard, Corday, Tankersley, a whole bunch of crazy names and not very good stats. Um, yeah, and that's my Miami pick.
Sorry, are you there, Kyle?
Yeah, I was losing you a little bit.
Yeah, I had to turn my headset off. I missed what you said about Trayvon Mullen, but I do agree that Trayvon Mullen is the pick here for the Dolphins to match up with Minka Fitzpatrick. Um,
Yeah, I mean another high combine grain guy. I definitely think that all these corners right here, they have crazy names, but they're not very good. 78, 75, 74.
give me
You're still cutting up a little bit. Uh-oh. This isn't good. All right. So moving on, we have the Green Bay Packers coming up next.
All right, I'm back.
And all right, I was gonna run the show by myself there
No,
for a
hey,
little
that's fine. So you got you're the Green Bay here.
bit. Yeah, Green Bay. This is where I got your guy coming off the board. That free safety that you like, the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I think he slips to Green Bay all the way down to 22. Obviously, no-brainer pick for them. They just lost haha. I think this makes up for it.
So we're kind of in the same ballpark here. I actually have strong safety Marvin Tell the third coming off the board here, and I think what they're going to do is they're going to draft him and then they're going to move him to that spot because I think he's the better talent for what's going to fit their needs, and that's just something that obviously that USC safety he's got a decent amount of speed. I think he'll be able to cover the pass pretty well. He is 6'3", so I think he'll be able to do a lot of damage when people are trying to go over the top. So that's really going to help there.
Definitely not someone. That's a nightmare matchup right there.
Yeah, that's not a good sign when you got a 6'3" guy back there. That's basically like trying to throw against shit, I can't even think. Just a starting wide receiver. You're basically trying to throw it over another wide receiver. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna work out. The next team we got coming up is the Chargers.
Yeah. So this one's kind of an interesting pick that I have here. I have the Chargers going middle linebacker because their middle linebacker is a 63 overall. Now they technically could move Jatavis Brown to middle. He's 79 as an outside. However, what I think they're going to do here is I think they're going to not reach, because I don't think it's a reach. I think truly he is first round talent. I think they're going to go with middle linebacker out of Wisconsin, TJ Edwards in this spot. I think that would be a very, very good fit for them. And I think out of what would be available at this point, I think that's the best talent.
I agree with the middle linebacker position, but like I said earlier, my linebackers kind of took a little late. They kind of delayed a little bit. Anthony Jennings is gonna go here.
Okay.
I think that's definitely best combine score out of all the middle linebackers, and I'm gonna keep bringing up the combine score because I'm definitely a fan of that.
Yeah.
I think they get a hell of a steal here with this the third best middle linebacker coming off the board here.
Perfect. And then the next team is going to be Minnesota. So Minnesota, what did you see here, Kyle, with the Minnesota Vikings?
Looking at Minnesota, my first thought was O-line. I mean, that offensive line is god awful. But looking into it, it's definitely something that he's going to have to evaluate coming into this part of the draft, because all those left tackles are going to be off the board. There isn't going to be very many left guards in the first round. Centers, don't even think about it. Right guard, I just had mine go. And right tackle, I think he definitely reaches a little bit and goes up and gets Brock Ruby from Florida State. 6'8" left tackle, or 6'8" right tackle, 320 pounds. He's definitely a power to help Delvin Cook off the edge, get him more edge on the side. Yeah, they got. Let's see here. At right tackle, their best right tackle is a 72 overall. So this fits right in. He'll probably come in and play day one.
Yeah. So kind of the same track with you. Instead of a right tackle, I had him reaching for Scott Queenanberry at the right guard position. He's also a power guard, but doesn't have as much size. But I think that's also a potentially good reach for him. That's going to help the gap there. So, who's the next team?
Next team would be Kansas City.
This pick was interesting as hell. Kansas City is one of those teams that it's
stacked.
The way he performed last year is not really a whole lot that needs to be said. I'm kind of thinking defense is probably the better way to go, mainly because the offense did such a good job. When we look at it, it looks like defensive tackle maybe, or left end. I ended up going left end, even though Morgan Fox, 24, 76 overall, he's not bad. I went with left end Rashawn Gary here out of Michigan. I think this would be a good spot for him to go. Power rusher, so you can get that pressure on the quarterback. Justin Houston, you have one of the better blitzing linebackers in the league. And then you got Anthony Hitchens back there as well to kind of fill out that middle. So I think Rashawn Gary would be a nice touch here for Kansas City. And, he's a beast. 6'7", 307. He's just an athletic freak. So I think this would be a nice fit there.
I went on the smaller end of the defense. I went with a right outside linebacker. Kind of a reach here, but you can't really go wrong with being so good last year. You got room for players to come in and develop on scene. I definitely think Brian Burns fills this spot. He's 6'5", 220. I mean, he's going to come in and go get the quarterback, and it's all he's going to have to worry about. With that offense going up, he's just going to be producing turnovers.
Perfect. And then the next team that we have is Atlanta. The Atlanta Falcons, I mean, now obviously these teams, as we get into these later rounds, or these later picks, they're not going to have a whole lot that they need to do. For the Falcons, however, they do have Grady Jarrett at D tackle. However, what I think they do is I think they bulk up at D tackle because you have Pickers, McKinley, and then you have Vic Beasley. And you even have Brooks Reed, who's not bad. But I think what they're going to do here is they're going to get Draymond Jones of Ohio State. And I think they're going to round out that defensive tackle spot. He's a run stopper. It's a little bit of a reach, but he's a good guy to put there next to Grady Jarrett.
I think it's a great pick. Now, I think that I'm also going to go defensive tackle with you. I'm hopping on your board a little bit.
Sure.
Um, I think that Draymond Jones is the best defensive tackle I got left, and I think it's a little bit of a reach at the end of this pick, but anyone that's projected in the second round can easily flip to the first, and same thing with first rounders to second. It's a very deep draft class, so don't look at a second round pick being horrible. It's definitely very deep, and that's why you got players going from the second here into the first.
Yeah, I agree with that very much. And also, too, he was 20th in stopping the run last year, so I think that really is going to help with the run stopping. Those four guys on the line, that's going to do a lot of damage. With the next team that we have here, it's going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. There wasn't really a whole lot with Pittsburgh that we needed to take a look at because Pittsburgh had arguably one of the best offenses and one of the best defenses combined. When I look at the weak spots, though, one of the things that stick out to me here is that he does not have a left outside linebacker. He has T.J. Watt and Ryan Shazier, and I think Terrell Lewis at left outside linebacker.
I knew you were gonna do it. I kind of felt like I would just let Josh Allen go. He would have been perfect here, but Terrell Lewis is definitely not he's no slouch there at left outside linebacker. He's a speed rusher. He's another one of those guys that can go get the quarterback. And coming in as a rookie, he's going to be stacking up against the likes of Ryan Shazier and T.J. Watt. And it's going to go very well for that Pittsburgh team. They're going to get a stud here.
Exactly. Then we have Philadelphia Eagles. I think Philadelphia goes right outside linebacker Brian Burns out of Florida State. He's a speed rusher, so it's going to really help them get to the ball. And I believe with their right outside linebacker, if I look at it properly, yeah, their best one's Josh Martin. So I think that's going to help their team. There's a lot of linebackers in the back end of this draft coming off the board. I think Philly's going to, linebacker, I think that's a smart play for them. It's just going to help over time having a speed rusher. He's 6'5", so he's got some size to him. Only 22 years old, so he'll develop pretty nicely. So that's Philadelphia. Who'd you have there?
I think what happens with Philadelphia is they go and take a right tackle. Now, call me crazy. I know that they have Lane Johnson there as a 93 overall, but I think they might move Lane Johnson to the left side, being better tackle, and putting a rookie in there on right tackle, by the name of Hanson Ford. Nebraska is agile. He can lead block. He can do it all. I mean, I think that's the right pick for him.
So we move to this next team, Tampa Bay, CPU team. Call me crazy, but I think what they're going to do here is I think they're going to pull a Green Bay Packers from the 2017 draft. Tampa Bay, the first pick that they had, I had them take a DeAndre Baker. Second pick that they have, which is at pick 29, I have them doubling down and taking cornerback Damon Arnett out of Ohio State. If you really think about this, if they take Baker and Arnett and then they have Hargraves, I think that this secondary is going to be one of the best in the league within due time.
Yeah, I see it. I mean, I could also see them trying to replace losing David, that linebacker, Leonard David.
Yeah.
I don't really have a pick for them to pick here. I think that maybe they go try to get Tavon Coney from Notre Dame. I think that's what they end up doing. The run stopper. He's 6'1". He's that prototypical outside linebacker in a 4-3. I think that's where they go here.
Awesome. Then we move to number 30, which is Cleveland. Well, I think we both agree here. Cleveland needs a quarterback. Cleveland had Tyrod Taylor last year. Tyrod led them to the playoffs. He did a good job. He has Paxton Lynch now. Tyrod walked in free agency, so that's no longer a thing. So Paxton Lynch is currently penned in as the starter week 1. I think in this draft here, I think this is where Jarrett Stidham goes. Getting a scrambling quarterback like Tyrod is going to be maybe something he goes for. I'm not sure. I just think that this is where he goes. I think out of the top 3 quarterbacks, they're kind of spread out in this first round, which is pretty nice. But Cleveland is definitely one that's desperate for a quarterback here.
All right. Well, I definitely want to talk about this pick a little bit, especially since my top 3 quarterbacks are all off the board, and Cleveland is definitely in need of a quarterback.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you're going to reach and take Shea Patterson, how well he might be or not.
Yeah.
I think they might go with I think they might go defense here. And I think that's where that cornerback goes. I know that they took the kid from Ohio State last year. I know that they have a decent corner behind them in EJ Gaines, but there's nothing wrong with bolstering that defensive back, that defensive core. I think Damon Arnett might go here. I think that they might just have to take best available, being this late in the draft. I can also see Marvin Tell going off the board here.
Yeah, no, I could see either of those.
It's kind of a dual threat pick. Yeah, he's got a good defensive backs, but maybe he's looking to trade.
So now we move on to the Detroit Lions at 31. On my draft board here, actually quite surprising. I didn't even realize that this would happen. This is where I actually have Bryce Love falling. It's to the Detroit Lions at 31. How that's going to happen? It's probably not. There are other talented running backs, but that is where I had him dropping, would be to the Detroit Lions. I think this would help bolster that offense. Theo Riddick currently being the starter. He's not bad, 85 overall. But Kerryon Johnson is there. He's also not bad, but I think the elusive back would fit the scheme of the Lions a little bit better than the power back. So I think this will be a good fit.
All right. For Detroit, I have them going tight end here. I think that they're gonna skip over Noah Fant. I don't think that he's all that coming out of Iowa. We'll see. I think Caleb Wilson here from UCLA catching passes from Josh Rosen last year definitely helped. But I think that Caleb Wilson is the tight end that goes here to Detroit, a desperately needed position.
And then we have Tennessee that rounds it out at 32. I actually didn't put a position, so I have to go find this guy. But I'm pretty sure he's a linebacker. Actually, no, he's not. He's a right end. So I have right end Derek Brown going to Tennessee. Harold Landry is there, so I think you add Derek Brown to the mix, and I think you have an insane pass rush. Like, insane pass rush. Yeah, I think that's what you're going to end up with.
Tennessee, I mean, they've been talking in the chat about how they want to get rid of, their defensive tackle, Jarrell Casey. They might want to pick up another end. I think I might agree with you on this one. I think that Kellen Farrell goes here, power rusher. I think he slips all the way to them. I think it's very lucky for them that he slips this far. And yeah, that's that draft.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good draft this year. There's a lot of talent up and down. I mean, you're probably going to find guys that are, 70 or higher in the 7th round. So it's a pretty good draft as far as depth goes. We have 2 questions, it looks like, that popped in during the chat here. One of those questions being from Coach Wellens. He says, with a lot of what looks like upside, could you see any players as a bust? That's tough. That's a tough question. That's a good question.
Bust in this first round?
A bust in the first round, dude. Damn, that's a brutal question.
I think I'm gonna play it safe here and say one of these quarterbacks are gonna bust. I think it's gonna be Jarrett Stidham. Or Stidham, whatever, however you say that name. Mm-hmm. I think that he busts for New England. That's where I have him going. Just because I don't know the New England player, I don't know how he's going to be. He doesn't really have a lot of weapons. He's going into a kind of a bad offense with one of the best pacifiers. I mean, I guess a quarterback can have in Gronk, but I think that might be forced and lead to a lot of interceptions this year.
Yeah. No, I definitely could see that. I think my top bust here, I think I'm going to go with Greg Little, left tackle. I think he's got the size, but what worries me is I just feel that he might be a little slow. I feel like the problem that you're going to run into a lot with somebody like this is you got size, but you got no speed or agility. Um, you could be the biggest guy in the world, but if you can't stick an arm out and block somebody, it doesn't matter, especially in that position. So I think Greg Little. I think he's going to end up turning into, you know, like an Eric Fisher type. I don't know if it's going to be nearly as bad, but I think that's my pick for the first round bust. Is going to be Greg Little. And then it looks.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah, it looks as if Paulie sent out a little thing. He says, "Can you set a queue for the draft? As I won't be there, I'd like to set a queue or something for it." Unfortunately, Paulie, you can't set a queue for the draft. I mean, you can kind of do like your own little board. I think you can set up a little draft board. Here, I'll show you here. I don't know if it's gonna let me do it actually. Yeah, it's actually whited out. So actually, I wonder if it's only whited out because no, I think it's whited out. Actually, I can't see what that button is. Do I add into the board? Oh, you can. So the guys. Okay, so Paulie, you should be. I don't know if he's still in here, but you can set up a draft board. All you do is you hit triangle on the player, and then you put them into. Like here, I'll add a couple people here. So let's just say I want all these players.
They get a star in the top left corner.
Yeah, so when you go into the draft board, you do all positions, and you can reorder and set them wherever you want. So you can go ahead and move them up and down to whatever you want, like number 1, number 2. So in that way, it kind of drafts accordingly. So that's the way that you're going to want to do that. So other than that, though, I think that's pretty much everything. Oh, I also wanted to mention one other thing, too. And it has to deal with trading. I know we brought that up earlier a little bit. But there is a new rule that is enforced. Trade approvals do need to happen moving forward. I know a lot of people were worried about it initially, but the biggest thing is I wouldn't be worried about it just because of the fact that pretty much 99% of the trades are going to be approved. It's more to protect the league from imploding. So you don't want people just freely trading too much, because when that happens, and what you can get is you have. I guess I'll use an example here. And Kyle, I think this was before you started playing MLB in leagues with me, but we had this guy named Nate. He went by Nate Dogg.
I remember this.
So Nate Dogg here, he was Cincinnati. He had this bright idea that he was going to trade all of his hitters for pitchers. So he did. He traded all of his hitters for pitchers, and then he quickly realized, well, fuck, I don't have any hitters now. All I have is pitching. So what do? He traded all of his pitchers for hitters, and it was a never-ending cycle. So the thing is, you gotta be smart with it, and people are smart generally in this league, and it's something where I know that people don't usually abuse powers like that when they have them. But in this instance, I just feel it's better to do it, just because I want to avoid anything moving forward. There's a lot of time invested into this league from everybody, so I think it'd be a good idea to enforce that. So in that way, the league kind of stays competitive, and also the league stays as fun as possible. Now, of course, if you have a trade that comes through that we think is not a good trade, we're going to ask both players why they think that trade is a good trade, or why they want to do that trade. And if the reasoning is logical for everybody, then we're going to accept it. So, but with that being said, I think we can go ahead and break. Thank you to everybody that watched our podcast. We had like 10 people or 11 people at one point, so that was pretty awesome.
Awesome. I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, so we're pretty much going to do one pre-draft mid-season, and then I think we're going to stick to 2, maybe 3. We might do a playoff preview for this upcoming season here. So that might be something to look forward to. But for now, we're gonna sign off here. So yeah, everybody take care and good luck in the draft. And we will see you tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Central, for the draft. So, oh wait, we got one more thing in here. I'll join next time. I'll be getting a mic soon. Hey Paul, did you saw what I did here on the draft board, right? I just want to make sure he saw. I can show him real quick again. The anticipation's killing me. Oh man.
Yeah.
All right, Paul.
Kinda...
Anytime, Paul. No, just kidding.
There's a lot of cool things though. I think that this league is going to be able to do. I think getting that much recognition for doing a podcast for the draft that happens tomorrow.
Yeah.
That could be fun. Yeah, and thanks for everyone who did watch. This was definitely a good time.
Yeah.
We ran a little bit longer than we thought it would.
Yeah, we ran over. Right. We ran it about an hour longer. So, yeah. Now, of course, a lot more to cover. But yeah, are we going to do a post-draft podcast? You know what? Maybe we will. I don't know. Maybe I will. Maybe I might do a solo one. Maybe I don't know. Or maybe I'll just keep Kyle in here by himself. I'm not sure. Yeah. But yeah,
I get that a lot. And stuff.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I appreciate the participation. Excuse me, my throat's dry. I appreciate the participation. We've had quite a few of you guys talking in this one, and it's been good. So, yeah. But with that being said, good luck on the draft tomorrow, everybody, and yeah, we'll see you then. There will be a party set up on PlayStation, and you know what? I don't know. I'm wondering if I should stream the draft while we're in the party. It's gonna be a long stream. But I'm wondering if I should stream the draft with the party, so then that way we can talk about it while it's happening.
Yeah.
That might be a thing, so keep your eyes peeled for that if you are looking forward to it. Even if you're in the party with us talking, it's kind of a cool thing. If you're not, you can be in the chat talking with us there. But we might be dissecting picks then, so seeing how close our draft board's lined up today. So, yeah. But with that being said, we'll talk to you guys on the flip side. Take care, and yeah, we'll see you soon.